Now then, gather round, you lot. We're about to embark on a journey through one of the most peculiar and unsettling chapters in history. Today, we're diving headfirst into a tale so bizarre, so utterly bonkers, that you'd think it was lifted straight from a Monty Python sketch. Yes, it's a story filled with absurdity, fear, and a touch of dark humor. Yes, my friends, we're talking about the Salem Witch Trials, a period in American history so chock full of paranoia, superstition, and frankly questionable legal proceedings that it makes the average British Q seem positively thrilling. Picture a courtroom where the evidence is as flimsy as a house of cards, and the accusations fly faster than a startled flock of pigeons. Imagine, if you will, a world where a twitchy arm or a penchant for staring into the middle distance could land you in hot water, boiling hot water to be precise. In Salem, even the most innocent of behaviors could be twisted into evidence of witchcraft. A simple sneeze or a misplaced glance could spell your doom. That's Salem in 1692, my dears, a place where the devil, apparently, had as much pull as a well-brewed cuppa in the House of Commons. The air was thick with fear and suspicion, and the townsfolk were gripped by a collective hysteria that defied all reason. But fear not, for I, your humble narrator, am here to guide you through this historical labyrinth. Together, we'll unravel the tangled web of accusations, confessions, and trials that turned neighbor against neighbor and friend against friend. We shall navigate the murky waters of spectral evidence, teenage tantrums, and enough finger-pointing to make a game of Twister look tame. The accusations were often based on the flimsiest of evidence, and the trials were a far cry from the fair and just proceedings we expect today. So buckle up, grab your smelling salts, you'll need them, and prepare to be both horrified and tickled by the saga of the Salem Witch Trials. It's a story that reminds us of the dangers of mass hysteria and the importance of reason and justice. As we delve deeper, you'll see how fear can twist the human mind and lead to the most tragic of outcomes. So let's step back in time and witness the madness that was the Salem Witch Trials. Picture this: 1692, a crisp autumn in Salem, Massachusetts. Trees ablaze with color, the air thick with wood smoke, locals on edge. Life in Salem? Not a walk in the park, strict Puritan society. Fun, contemplating damnation, fashion. Tall pointy hats, no Netflix, no pubs, not even a decent cuppa. Boredom was life. And when you're bored, the mind wanders. Add religious fervor, sprinkle political instability, heap on fear, mass hysteria, twitchy teens, questionable accusations. The town in a tizzy. Now, our story begins as so many good stories do, with a group of young women behaving rather oddly. We're talking fits, convulsions, unintelligible babbling. The works! Naturally, in a time when doctors were more likely to prescribe leeches than a nice lie-down, folks jumped to the most logical conclusion: witchcraft. These afflicted girls, dubbed the Afflicted Girls, became the stars of the Salem show. They pointed fingers, they screamed, they writhed on the floor like they were auditioning for a particularly dramatic production of Hamlet. One can't help but wonder if a bit of teenage boredom and a longing for attention might have played a role, eh? Of course, some historians have put forth other theories. Ergotism, a fungal disease caused by eating contaminated rye bread, has been suggested as a possible culprit. After all, nothing says I'm under a spell quite like hallucinating and convulsing from eating bad bread. But hey, who needs scientific explanations when you've got good old-fashioned witchcraft to blame? Section 4. The usual suspects, accusers and the accused. With accusations flying faster than a broomstick on Halloween, it wasn't long before the first unfortunate souls found themselves on trial for witchcraft. And who were these alleged sorcerers and sorceresses? Well, let's just say they weren't exactly the life of the Puritan party.
First up, we have Tituba, a slave woman who was probably just trying to keep her head down and get on with her day.
Then there's Sarah Good, a beggar known for her, shall we say, colorful personality.
And let's not forget Sarah Osborne, a woman who had the audacity to be a bit different and gasp independent. You see, the accused shared a common thread. They were all outsiders, easy targets for a community gripped by fear and suspicion. It's a bit like blaming the dog for eating the biscuits when you know you've been nibbling on them yourself, isn't it? Section 5, Did You or Didn't You? The Trials of Salem. Now, let's talk about the trials themselves, shall we? The Salem Witch Trials were a series of hearings and prosecutions of people accused of witchcraft in colonial Massachusetts between February 1692 and May 1693. The trials resulted in the executions of 20 people, most of them women, and the imprisonment of many others. Imagine a courtroom where the legal system is about as reliable as a chocolate teapot. The atmosphere was charged with fear and superstition, and the judges were often more interested in securing convictions than in seeking the truth. Evidence? Who needs evidence when you have spectral evidence? Which basically meant that if one of the afflicted girls claimed to see your spirit doing naughty things, well, you were pretty much done for. This type of evidence was highly subjective and impossible to refute, making it a powerful tool for those looking to settle scores or remove rivals.
Imagine being accused of witchcraft because someone swore they saw your ghostly apparition dancing a jig with the devil. It sounds absurd, but in the hysteria of the time, such accusations were taken very seriously. It's enough to make you want to reach for the smelling salts, isn't it? The stress and fear were palpable, and many people fainted or had fits during the trials, adding to the chaotic atmosphere.
And the worst part? These accusations were often fueled by personal grudges, land disputes, and good old-fashioned gossip. Neighbors turned against neighbors, and families were torn apart by suspicion and fear. It seems even in the 17th century, a bit of rumor-mongering could really ruin your day. The power of gossip and hearsay was immense, and once an accusation was made, it was almost impossible to clear one's name. The trials themselves were a chaotic mess of shouting, fainting, and accusations that would make your hair stand on end. The courtroom was often packed with spectators, all eager to see the drama unfold. It's a wonder anyone got a word in edgewise. The noise and confusion made it difficult for the accused to defend themselves, and many were convicted on the flimsiest of evidence.
And if you thought the legal system was a bit dodgy, just wait till you hear about the punishments. Those found guilty of witchcraft faced severe penalties, including execution by hanging. Others were imprisoned, often in harsh conditions, and some were even pressed to death with heavy stones. The fear and hysteria of the time led to a brutal and unforgiving system of justice.
Section 6. Hanging judge hath no mercy, especially for witches. Ah, the punishments. They were as harsh as they were swift. Let's just say that the good people of Salem weren't exactly known for their lenient sentencing. In fact, leniency was a foreign concept to them. No, my friends, if you were found guilty of witchcraft, you were in for a right royal rollicking. The trials were more like a grim spectacle, a public display of what awaited those who dared to defy the norms. The most common punishment? Hanging, of course. It was the ultimate deterrent, a grim reminder to all who watched. Not exactly a picnic in the park, is it? The gallows stood as a stark symbol of the community's resolve to root out what they saw as evil.
But it wasn't just the hangman's noose that awaited the convicted. The methods of punishment were as varied as they were brutal. Some poor souls were crushed under rocks, a method known as pressing. It was a slow, agonizing death. Others were left to rot in prison, their lives wasting away in dark, damp cells. The conditions were inhumane, to say the least, and a few lucky individuals even managed to escape. They fled into the wilderness, seeking refuge from the madness. One can't help but wonder if they ended up having a better time of it than those who stayed behind. The fear of being caught must have been ever present, but at least they had a chance at freedom.
The most famous victim of the Salem Witch Trials was Giles Corey, an elderly man who refused to plead guilty or not guilty to the charges against him. His defiance was both his strength and his downfall. His punishment? To be pressed to death under heavy stones. Talk about stubborn. His last words, "more weight," have echoed through history as a testament to his unyielding spirit. One can only imagine the conversations that took place during those long hours under the rocks. Did he curse his accusers? Did he pray for mercy? Or did he simply endure in silence, a silent protest against the injustice of it all? The community watched, some with grim satisfaction, others with silent horror. The trials were a dark chapter in their history, a time when fear and superstition ruled over reason and compassion. Today, we look back on the Salem Witch Trials with a mixture of fascination and revulsion. They serve as a stark reminder of the dangers of mass hysteria and the importance of due process and justice. Time has passed, and the wounds have healed, but the lessons remain. We must never forget the past, lest we are doomed to repeat it.